about what happened to me after. The only one who made it about him, ironically, is Johnny.
I'm going to, we can take that down, Michelle. I'm going to turn to something about electronics and transparency. You've testified about, and we've seen photographs and audio recordings and text messages, emails, etc. What, if anything, have you done to cooperate in the authentication of all of these things?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to turn to your counterclaim. You have made a counterclaim against Mr. Depp in this case, correct?
That's correct.
And it's based on 3 statements that Mr. Adam Waldman, Mr. Depp's attorney, made, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask if you can pull up Defendant's Exhibit 245. But, Your Honor, I'm going to ask, do we have
It's already in evidence.
Your Honor, if we may approach
Okay,
just
sure.
real quickly, because I think we can move this along faster if we do this ahead of time. Okay, we're going to start by bringing up Defendant's 1245.
All right, and moving that into evidence, no objection, 1245 in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And this is an article that was in the Daily Mail on 8 April 2020. You see that? And then, Michelle, if you can move that to the next page, and perfect. It says, Adam Waldman, Depp's lawyer, said afterwards, Amber Heard and her friends in the media use fake sexual violence allegations as both a sword and a shield, depending on their needs. They have selected some of her sexual violence hoax facts as the sword, inflicting them on the public and Mr. Depp. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Is this a true or a false statement?
False.
And why is it false?
Well, you have to use what I've lived through and what I've survived, calling it fake, saying that I'm harming Johnny with this, I'm harming the public with this. This is what I've lived through, and to say that it's a hoax, that these aren't even real things. I mean, after everything I've lived through and survived, and also I hadn't even spoken about the sexual abuse within my marriage. I had been protective of that. I didn't want to talk about that ever. Adam Waldman was the one who put that out in the world. As remarkable as that is, I protected that. I had to go to another country to give testimony, and thankfully they allowed me to do so with confidentiality and some protection. And then Johnny, through his lawyer, not only uses that against me, but says it's a hoax.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask if we can bring up, and it's going to be 1246A. And I think I'm moving this
All
into
right.
evidence as well.
There's no objection, so 1246A is in evidence. You can publish.
And this is an article that was published on the 28th of April, 2020. And Michelle, if we can, thank you. And this one says, Depp's lawyer, Adam Waldman, said, quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick, he told dailymail.com. And let's keep going. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their stories straight under the direction of a lawyer and a publicist, and then placed a second call to 911. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that true or false?
Couldn't be more false.
And why is that?
Every part of it is false. I didn't call 911. I didn't call the police. I refused to cooperate with them to protect Johnny. I protected Johnny. I didn't call them once and I didn't call them twice. I didn't rough up the place. I cleaned up the place. I didn't even know the second cops were coming. If I wanted to get something from him, if I wanted to hoax Johnny, why wouldn't I cooperate with the police? Wouldn't I say something to the police? Wouldn't I do more damage to the house than just knock over the things that you saw pictures of? It makes no sense. And to do it online when there's no fact checking, there's no authorities, there's no one able to, I can't respond. I can't fight this and use these sorts of media leaks and these comments to re-echo over and over and over again online with a network of people that are intent on helping Johnny through a sophisticated PR machine.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay, speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
All right, and so what in fact did you do that night?
I cleaned up. I protected Johnny. I refused to cooperate with the police, like so many other people do. I tried really hard to keep it private even after that, even when I was committed to filing for a divorce. I tried to protect Johnny. I tried to protect the history of what we had. I tried to protect him. And did the opposite And I didn't even have a lawyer. I didn't call my publicist. I called my contract attorney to get me another lawyer who could give me advice on how to protect Johnny. Every bit of this was to protect Johnny and to protect the secret that I had fought really hard to keep for nearly 5 years, which was that behind closed doors, things were not what it looked like.
Okay. Michelle, can you take this one down and go to defendants 1247, please? And Your Honor, I'll move the admission.
All right. I know there's no objection, 1247 in evidence.
And Amber, this is another daily, a Mail Online, and this is published on 24 June, updated on 25 June 2020. And then if we can go further. And this one says, Depp's attorney, Adam Waldman, said, "We have reached the beginning of the end of Ms. Heard's abuse hoax against Johnny Depp." Is this true or false?
False.
And why is it false?
Because unfortunately, all of this is real. And what I mentioned earlier about how preposterous it would have to be for this to be this elaborate hoax, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't fathom one day that that would actually be legitimately the position that he, through a lawyer, would take, albeit online, where he could get away with it for some time.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustain the objection.
And why is this so absurd?
Because Johnny and I lived this. We lived through this. I lived through this, and I narrowly survived it. But I survived it. And, you know, I have mountains of evidence, mountains of proof, and yet it won't be good enough for people who are seeking to make money off of Johnny's success.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the
That's
objection.
fine. Okay. So I'm going to take you now to the damages that you've suffered as a result of these statements by Mr. Waldman on Mr. Depp's behalf. Please tell the jury how you were doing reputationally.
Objection. That's a legal conclusion, Your Honor.
I'm
We
sorry.
move to strike counsel's testimony.
Come forward. From the record, we'll disregard that question. All right, your next question.
What was your understanding of on whose behalf Mr. Waldman was making those three statements?
Objection. Lack of foundation. Calls for speculation.
If you want to approach again, that's not what we just said here. I just want.
So we'll move forward to my other question here. How were you, please tell the jury, how were you doing reputationally before these three statements were made, beginning April 2020? April 8 was the first of them.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm going to object on lack of foundation.
She can talk about her reputation.
Overruled, I'll allow.
It took hard work. It took a lot of hard work on my part, but I was able to work, get my life back on track. I was taking care of myself emotionally. My career, I was working really hard. I was able to star in a major success. I worked on a TV series that I had been attached to for a very long time. I became an ambassador for several nonprofits that I deeply care about. I was doing a lot of really it felt really good to be doing the social work and the charity work that I was doing. And I was also filming and working and planning on, I was awaiting a schedule from Warner Brothers for Aquaman 2, the sequel. And I had wrapped on that TV series I mentioned, and I was awaiting to start doing publicity for it to promote it. And I had a campaign, a global campaign, as a spokesperson for a major beauty brand. So things were, the trajectory was positive.
So how did things change after these statements were made?
I remember around the time, unfortunately, I lost my mother on the 1st of April. And I remember it was when I was grieving her that I got a call that I should be expecting a script for my role in Aquaman 2.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
So I was waiting a schedule and a script for that. Feeling concerned that I wouldn't have enough time to grieve before having to get back into work. I had a press schedule to promote the TV series I was doing, and I was shooting things for this beauty brand. And then I remember at that time the beauty brand had to suspend posting what I just shot for them because they were getting bombarded.
Objection, Your Honor, this is hearsay.
Sustain the objection.
Okay. All right.
They said no. I mean, they suspended what I had shot.
Objection, Your Honor.
That she can testify to that, Your Honor. She has to be able to testify.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Were you actively involved in campaigns for L'Oreal before these articles?
I was.
Were you actively involved in campaigns with L'Oreal after these articles?
No.
Were you with The Stand? You were talking about the TV series. That was The Stand, correct?
Yes, the TV series that I had already completed.
All right. And were you actively involved in publicity for The Stand prior to these articles?
Yes, I was.
Were you actively involved in the publicity after these articles?
No, shoots were canceled. Things were canceled.
With respect to Aquaman 1, Aquaman 2, you'd already starred in Aquaman 1, right? Just so and they called it Aquaman at that time, but now there's an Aquaman 2, just right for.
That's correct.
Okay. So were you actively scheduling timing for filming and scripts for Aquaman 2 before these articles?
Yes, I was.
Were you actively scheduling after these articles?
No, the communications stopped at that point.
All right. I'm going to, Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 1258? I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1258. It's dated September 21, 2015. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
It is the Justice League Aquaman contract.
Okay, Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 1258.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, may we
Oh,
approach?
sure. Yes, ma'am.